Hello, everyone. Thank you for stopping by my YouTube channel, Get Crafty with Sally. My name is Sally Poole. I am a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Albany, Oregon. Welcome. Today I'm going to show you how I made this really pretty pop-out swing fold card. So it just looks like a normal A2 card when it's all folded up. But when you open it, hopefully you can see this. This front part is cut out and fits right through there. And then it's got all these nice little folds for designer series paper. You can leave that white if you want. I'll show you some examples of other things that I did. This one has the most pieces on it, and I'm going to say it's the most elaborate. I am running low on my designer series paper. I'm using the Peaceful Garden designer series paper that goes with the, I think it's called Peace on Earth bundle with the doves. And the paper that I cut, let's see, the front of the card around the edge is the piece that I'm missing that I really like. So we're going to have to substitute, which is fine. You can mix and match and do whatever. So there's a top view of what it looks like. And it is a very sturdy card. And it is not as hard as you might think. So let's get started. These are the pieces that you're going to need to make this card. You can either take a screenshot of the measurements, or as always, I will have a PDF with all of the measurements and supplies listed. It will be linked down below this video in the description box. So you are welcome to use that. Let's get started on this card. I think the first thing that we'll do is let's take our card base, which is 5.5 by 8.5, and I have used Misty Moonlight. It is listed on the back of the designer series paper pack. It's scored at 4¼ inches, folded in half. Take our bone folder and give that a press. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this piece of 4⅛ by 5 3/8 designer series paper. It's from the same pack of paper. And we are going to use this for the front piece. I think it's nicer if you do put a piece of designer series paper on the front. It makes the card base a little bit sturdier. So you can see that we're going to cut the center of this out after we glue it. So we don't want to glue the whole thing down. We just want to glue around the edge. So I am going to take, this is a die from the Branching Out set, and I am using the 3rd largest rectangle frame die, and I'm going to, just for a general measurement, I am going to lay that right in the center of that piece of designer series paper, and I'm just going to put some glue around the edges. I don't want to glue the entire piece down, and you'll see why in just a minute. Although you can if you want. It's not going to hurt anything. So let's take this piece of paper, make sure our card is opening on the right side. And let's lay this on the front and center it as best as we can. Give that a press. And remember, there's no glue right in the center. So now we're going to take our die again. And I'm going to grab some Post-it note tape. And I'm going to lay my die where I think the center is. Let me get some Post-it note tape ready to go here first. So you want to get this centered the best that you can. You could measure the edges if you want, but it's not quite that critical. So I'm going to put a piece of tape there and a piece of tape on this other side. Now we're going to bring in our cut and emboss machine. Hopefully you'll be able to see this. I've got my, for cutting, my plate 1, my plate 2, a plate 3, and then I am going to take this piece that we just taped our die to, and I'm going to open up the card base, lay that down on my plate number 3, and then put my second plate number 3 on top of that, and we'll run it through our machine. Okay, so let's set that aside. So here is our card front piece now with the center cut out. Let's take our die off carefully. You don't want to rip your designer series paper. I don't know that I've ever had the Post-it note tape rip any of my paper. So now, since we didn't glue these together, we have got these two pieces that we can use. I am going to use this. You can use this one for something else. So this is actually going to end up back in here as part of the mechanism for the front of the card. So next, let's take our white piece that is 5 inches by 8 inches. I've scored it at 2 inches, 4 inches, and 6 inches. And I am going to, since I'm left-handed, I'm flipping it over. This is actually the right side of the card. I'm going to make sure this is all lined up straight. Give that a good crease. And then these, we're going to kind of fold over so they almost make a little box. Try to line these up so they're even. So this is going to go on the inside of the card as the mechanism, but we're going to decorate it a little bit first. If you don't want to decorate it, you don't have to. You can use it this way. So I am going to take my, let's see, I've got 4 pieces of 1 7/8 by 4 7/8 designer series paper. I am going to grab my chair. I've got my glue, so let's start gluing these down. And like I said, you can mix and match your designer series paper however you want. You could put solid cardstock on these if you want. You can just leave the white, and of course you don't have to use white either. You can use whatever color you want. If you're not going to put designer series paper on it, you can, for the white, it's nice to have just this to stamp a sentiment on. And I'll show you the card that we're working on now. I actually have the folding mechanism piece is basic white, and then I've actually put the designer series paper over all 4 of these panels, and then I've put another piece of basic white over the top of this designer series paper. So you could omit that piece of designer series paper if you want and just stamp right on that white panel. Hopefully that makes sense. Lots of different ways you can do this. These don't all have to be the same paper. You can mix and match and coordinate that however you like. Okay, so here is our 3rd panel. Give that a press, and we'll put some glue on the 4th and final panel. So let's center that. Try to get all of your white margins about the same thickness. So there is our little folded mechanism piece. And I am actually going to make this card a little bit sturdier. So I'm taking this 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 piece that says inside right. This is also Misty Moonlight. And I am going to glue just this right panel. I guess I should. Let me glue my sentiment down first. It's a lot easier to put all these pieces on here before you get it to where it's folded up a little bit and not flat. If you forget and need to add anything later, you still can. It's not impossible and not too difficult. I see a dog here. Okay, so since this is 5.5 inches and this is 5 inches, you're going to have a pretty good extra area of Misty Moonlight on the top and the bottom. But you want to glue this probably about 1/8 of an inch from that right side. I am going to put glue all over the back of this far right panel. And then we will try to center that up and down, and then, like I said, place it about 1/8 of an inch from the right side. So you will have a little border of Misty Moonlight. And then, if I can find my really good glasses, there they are. Let me grab these. You can, if you want, and this might not be difficult for you, but it's hard for me to see it for some reason. We are going to fold this over, and we're actually going to put glue on the back of this panel, and we're going to scooch it over next to this fold line, but not right up against it, just a little bit to the right of it. And then we're going to put some glue on this piece, and then across the top and bottom. You can see where it's going to fit right there. So it's going to glue that, the front piece of this card, to this, and then that will make the mechanism that pops the front piece out. That's what makes it work. So it is hard to see when you're lining, you've glued this and you're lining it up next to this fold. It's really hard to see it. Well, it's hard for me to see it. So I'm going to put some glue on it, the back. And then I'm going to put my super duper glasses on. Let me stand up. Hopefully I can keep my head out of the camera while I do this. And it's probably easier to tip it up this way so you can get your left and right edges about the same. So I am going to have to stick my head in here a little bit. I'm going to lay that down there. I don't know if you can see that or not. Okay, put my normal glasses back on. And then let me grab my chair again. So now we are going to put some glue right down this edge, and you don't want to go clear to the top because you don't want to glue this front and back piece together. And then we will put some glue right across the top of our Designer Series paper panel and the bottom. I've tried this several different ways, and this is the easiest way that I have found to get it to come out good and secure. So then we're going to fold that over, give that a press, and so now you can see that you don't want your glue to go past this first fold. Give that a few seconds to set a little bit, and then we can pop it open, and you can see then how that mechanism works. And you can see that I got glue on the inside of the card. So I think I put it up a little bit too high. All right, so let's next take our, got glue all over my fingers now. Let's take our blue piece that we cut out, and then for the scrap of Designer Series paper for the tree, I have used the Decorative Trees. Well, I've actually used the bundle but I've used this solid tree from the die set, and I've already got one cut out. So let's grab it, and I've also cut out a piece of basic white with the, got glue all over everything, with the 4th largest die out of the branching out dies. And then I have embossed it with the Snowflake Sky 3D embossing folder. You can use whatever embossing folder that you like. So let's put some glue on the back of our piece of basic white. And we will adhere that piece to the slightly larger Misty Moonlight piece. And then let's put some glue on the back of our little tree. And try to center that on this little panel. And remember that you're going to put a, well, you don't have to, a gem on the top of the tree for a star. So now this piece is going to fit right inside this cutout here, but we're only going to put glue on this right panel with the doves on it. And you don't want to get glue under this front flap and glue it down. So you want to stay away from that cutout edge just a little bit. Another thing to mention, you don't have to use the branching out dies. You can use whatever shape you want. So now we're going to take this piece and we're going to lay it in this cutout. It fits right down in there, and we are going to hold it down on the right side a little bit and let that glue take hold a little bit. So the sentiment that I stamped on here is also from the Decorative Trees bundle. I used A Very Merry Christmas. I think it's very cute on here. And I did stamp it in my favorite VersaFine Clair Nocturne black ink. You could use Night of Navy if you want. You could use Misty Moonlight. You could use Secret Sea. So there is the mechanism and our card opening and closing. So let's take I am using the faceted snowflakes for this, and I'm just going to take one of these big silver snowflakes and place it on the top of the tree as a star. Let me close my glue up. Get some of the stuff out of the way. So that is the card. What do you think about it? I think it's actually pretty easy to make, other than the fact that I got glue where I shouldn't have, but I will take an eraser when that dries and I can get that right off of there. So that is not a problem. So there is our card. Let me show you a couple other ones I did. The very first one I made with paper from, let me see if I can find it here, the Christmas Tags and More package. It's got these cute little pieces that you can punch right out. This ornament is one of the pieces that comes out of that pack. Right, you can see it right here. Punches right out of there. I just used a little piece of ribbon to hang the ornament. And I did put some, I can't think what they're called, festive pearls? Festive pearls. Some gold festive pearls on there. I will list all of the items that I've used for these other cards in the PDF in case there's something here that you want to do or try. This, like I said, is the first card that I made, and I originally did not have designer series paper on the front, and that's why I decided to start adding it, because this is kind of flimsy. So I really do think that you need to put the paper on the front. So I added that later, and it works. It's fine. And you can see that I have the white here, and I did use red. So when you do that, it's a lot easier to glue that down and line things up when they're not the same color. The other one I did was this one with one of the papers that I really love, and I don't think it's available right now, and I can't remember the name of it. Let me see if I can find the package really quick. I do have it right here. It is Traditions of Christmas. And then I stamped the poinsettia from, I have just got stuff everywhere. I used the old poinsettia petals bundle for this. I stamped the, I believe it's the 2 smaller poinsettia stamps in real red and die cut those, and then I actually lightly colored them, and this probably won't show up on the camera, with light and dark bubble bath. There is pink in this designer series paper. It's not listed on the pack, but you certainly can see it in person. And so I put just one panel of that on the inside. So like I said, I will list all of the different products that I used for these other 2 cards in the PDF in case you're interested in trying any of them or see something here that you like. Again, use whatever designer series paper you have that you love. Use whatever different shapes of dies that you want to cut this swinging piece out of the front, and have fun with it. Thanks for stopping by and spending some time with me. I really appreciate it. If you're getting anything out of my videos, please hit the like button. Share my video with your friends and family. And if you have not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so. It really does help my channel grow. It is a dark and blustery day here in Oregon today. So maybe just a TV Hallmark movie day. I appreciate you, and I will see you next time. Bye.